Hi, friends. My cheek palettes arrived from Pat McGrath Labs today. I ordered these products, and while I like to spend time with new makeup, unfortunately because of my schedule I will be attending a wedding over the weekend, and because of that I won't be able to dive into these products until next week, which usually is not a problem except for the fact that I am the one who films and edits, and that timeline will delay the video, so hopefully you understand. But even in this first impressions, we'll go over the product details, the swatches, and of course try everything on and dabble into a few comparisons, which could get a little nitty-gritty since, you know, I mean, Venus Nectar versus Nude Nectar versus Sunset Nectar, but we'll get there. Anyway, I ordered the Divine Blush and Glow Cheek Palette from Pat McGrath in Divine Rose, but Nude Venus off Sephora. For some reason, Nude Venus wasn't available when the site went live. I'm not sure if it did eventually, but I was a little anxious in trying to wait for that to become available for purchase, so I just ordered Nude Venus from Sephora. I also grabbed the Skin Fetish Sublime Skin Highlighter in Venusian Nude, as well as the Skin Fetish Divine Blush in the limited edition, as well as what I just mentioned, Venusian Nude, Nude Venus II. I believe all these products are limited edition and a part of the Celestial Nirvana holiday collection for Pat McGrath Labs. Let's begin with the Divine Blush Glow and Cheek Palette. Again, they come in two colorways, and one is Divine Rose, the other Nude Venus. I like the color choices for these. It kind of helps me remember what is what, besides the name being on the back of the palette, but fine. They each retail for $62, and you receive 4 of the Divine Blush shades, as one is one huge highlighter rectangle. I mentioned this before, I forgot in what video, that there's so much highlighter for one person, but I guess silly to say that since I do have the highlighter singles for some shades. I don't know, maybe she could have done the 3 blush shades and 1 highlighter shade. I know we have new shades in each palette, so again, here is Nude Venus, and first we'll start off with Desert Orchid, classic Divine Blush shade, Nude Venus, one of my most favorite peach colored blushes, Divine Rose 3, new shade, a more cooler pink shade. I guess that's a warmer pink compared to the original Divine Rose. We're gonna have to swatch that. And lastly, my beloved Paradise Venus, which I feel is a little more red than the original. And lastly, we have Sunset Nectar, the highlight shade of the palette, which is a hybrid powder formula, so there's a lot of emolliency to it, not like the gel to powder highlighter that is included in this collection, which we'll get to. Oh, and timestamps will be down below, just so if you wanted to skip over. Instead of going straight to the other palette, I think I'll do the comparisons now. Again, timestamps. Here is the original Desert Orchid, right? Isn't that interesting? Did I swatch the right one? It says freaking Desert Orchid. Yeah, this Desert Orchid is significantly, is it because, hold on. Is it because I had leftover Liquid Lust on my finger? Let's swatch that again. I'm swatching it over the first, okay. And again, going into Desert Orchid from the original single, I feel like the one from the palette has a little more something to it. It got a little more brown in there. I can't actually identify. Divine Rose 3, we got the original Divine Rose, which is more of a cooler situation here. Let me put it right next to, yeah, definitely more cooler, where the Divine Rose 3 shade is a lot warmer in pink. Divine Rose 2 came in the Divine Blush Duo. So this is like a hybrid between the two. I'll just swatch that here. So yeah, that's more of like a fuchsia leaning pink, whereas Divine Rose 3 is a warmer pink. The original Nude Venus, one of my most favorite peach shades, I would say not quite the same as the one in the palette. It doesn't have as much peach like the one in the palette. Interesting. And then here we go. Original Paradise Venus. When I first applied the Paradise Venus in from the palette, I just noticed how, well, maybe they are the same. Okay, maybe they are the same. I feel like this was more red, but you see there are a few nuances between the palette and the singles. I think expected when you're switching palette and sizes, and maybe the formula might be affected by that. The only standout I feel is between the original Desert Orchid and the one from the palette. Maybe that'll be more advantageous if you are deeper complected, because Desert Orchid, I think, presents a beautiful bronzy glow on the cheekbones, but if you wanted a little more color, I think you can get that from the Desert Orchid in Nude Venus. Now going into the Divine Blush and Glow Cheek Palette in Divine Rose. Here it is, Desert Orchid 2. Excuse me. What does that look like? Oh, that's like a little more pink, whereas the original is warmer. What? How can we identify that shade? I like that. I like that a lot. Can't wait to try it on. The original Divine Rose, which we originally swatched here. So there we go. That looks to have a little more like a mauve to it. Peony Rose, new shade in the Divine Rose lineup. What do we got from Peony Rose? Ooh, that kind of reminds me of Love Struck or Cherish. And lastly, we have Electric Bloom, our beloved, vibrant red blush. Beautiful. And I forgot to mention that between the two palettes, you are getting a mixture between demi matte and pearl finishes. Demi matte, not matte, not satin, between, natural finish, a little bit of radiance on the blend. Lastly, Nude Nectar. Was it? I forgot the original one that I have. Okay, so Sunset Nectar, not as, well, there's a little more pink in there. And Nude Nectar, I think, similar in that undertone, is very hard to pick out. All right, the original Electric Bloom next to the one in the palette, I think pretty similar. Is that because I had some leftover pink from my last swatch? I think they're pretty similar. You should see all these compacts I have on my desk right now. It's kind of ridiculous. Going into Cherish, comparing that to Peony Rose, a little lighter there. And Love Struck is the more berry leaning. Woo, so here we go. This is Peony. Yeah, that has a little more like a berry pink to it, where Peony Rose, I think, is more moderately pink. Probably close to Divine Rose 3. But we shall see when applying everything in the end. Did I swatch the right one? I think this was Peony. Was this Peony? No. Is it now? My gosh, I have to do this. I have to do this all over again. Okay, Divine Rose 1. Divine Rose 1. Okay. Original Divine Rose single. I feel like you're getting a little more plum from the Divine Rose 1 in the palette. Peony Rose. We got the new shade from the Divine Rose palette. Cherish, Divine Rose single. Love Struck, Divine Rose single. Okay. So there are similarities between Peony Rose, Cherish, and Love Struck. Love Struck has that more berry tone, which very closely related to Peony Rose, but I could see, yes, there is more rose, and Cherish has that more cooler pink tone to it. But what's striking is the difference between Divine Rose, both from Divine Rose palette and the single. It seems like the single doesn't have that same saturation, maybe because the powders are a touch softer in these palettes. Allow me to then go side by side with Sunset Nectar and Nude Nectar. Sunset Nectar and Nude Nectar. Okay, I mean, one a little more icy pink, one a little more icy champagne. That's the best I can do, fam. I'm so sorry. Moving on to the Skin Fetish Sublime Skin Highlighter, $60, a crystalline gel powder highlighter in the shade Venusian Nude. I love the embossing, but from last year, we got the gold compact, and this is cute. It's cute, but I would have rather have this in the gold or a mirrored version of this color, right? Because I get how the embossing is limited edition, but to have like a mirrored pink or a mirrored something to pull from the color palette that already exists in Celestial Nirvana in terms of the palette design, I think would have been nice. I'm excited to get into Venusian Orchid, and I'll stay on this arm. So we have, I don't know, like this, ooh, shiny. What seems to be a super shiny, ooh. So, okay, even though this might not have as much pigment as the hybrid powder formula found in the Divine Glow palette, this will appear a lot more glass-like in finish and a little more sparkly without looking like glitter, because again, that crystalline, finely milled pearl look on the cheekbones, I just think beautiful. And for the same reason why I adore the Divine Rose Glow highlighter is because of that same gel to powder texture. Yeah, so interesting. You got a little more of like a gold flip from the Divine Rose, comparing it to last year's Skin Fetish the Blind Skin highlighter, Lunar Nude, again from the Gold Compact. Let's see how that looks like compared to this year's. Ooh, so that looks to be like more pink, more maybe. Let me swatch this year's again. We're going to get another swatch from Venusian Nude. Okay, maybe not as pink as Lunar Nude. There's a little more champagne in there, perhaps. Lastly, the Skin Fetish Divine Blush Shade, $39, Nude Venus II. We got peach nude with a pearl finish. Again, another limited edition product. Love the embossing in this as well. You have the same overlay design that you found from the highlighter. Highlighter is bigger, Divine Blush Compact smaller. This looks beautiful, and we'll compare it to the original Nude Venus, of course. So here is the Nude Venus 2 shade. Oh, that's pretty. And the original Nude Venus here, a little more peachy. Let's see. Yeah, a little more peachy. I definitely could see that pearl finish. On me is pulling a little more plum than peach, but it could be different when we apply it on Z cheeks. So with details and swatches out the way, I think it's time for you to come in a little closer. That's enough. Starting off with Nude Venus, since that is the palette that kicked off the swatches, I'm actually looking at my brush now because these are very soft in the pan. And something like a Refer brush, I mean, if you want color payoff, this will definitely pick up a ton and move it well around the skin. But I'm eyeing my soft cheek, a longer bristle, and a more fluid feel on the skin, because I don't know if I want all that blush, you know what I'm saying? Let's take a little bit of Paradise Venus, which you already see from the first tap. Switching brushes so that I could move this product a little bit better. You noticed how I started it higher on the cheekbone, because I've mentioned several times that Paradise Venus is one of my most all-time favorite shades because of its dual role in providing sculpt shape to the face as well as flush, that classic sunburnt look. And you can recognize immediately how much color this blush delivers. And you know, you have to be a little strategic with what brush you use and where you place it on the skin. Let's go in with our Desert Orchid, and I like to apply that on the actual cheeks because Desert Orchid has that pearl finish. And if you wish to have that luminous blend on that part of your face, when you turn, you can pick up, or the light can pick up that sheen. I do feel the Desert Orchid from the palette is giving a little more. Let me know down below what your experience has been. If you have these palettes, you know, just from the swatch alone, it's like, oh, okay. And let's start with Nude Venus on the actual apples of the cheeks. This will give a lighter serving of color, but Nude Venus is one of my most all-time favorite peach shades because on my complexion, it gives the right amount of flush, fantastic for every day, very low-key, but again, nice color at the same time. And Divine Rose 2 is going to appear a little more pink. Well, actually, with the Nude Venus shade, Divine Rose 3? Yes. I remember from the swatches, it does lean a little warmer than the original Divine Rose, and I actually like that, especially when combined with Nude Venus. It provides a nice gradient. It has like a harder pink shade moving into the peachy undertone of Nude Venus. You could see like the vast difference between the two shades, or the four shades I should say. And hopping into Sunset Nectar, these types of powders, especially the highlighters, very soft. So see how much pickup you'll get. Make sure you tap off any excess to control the amount that you place on your cheekbones, because it could be a lot, okay? Perhaps use a smaller brush. I'm using my Designer Pro. Yes. And all you need to do is just tap that powder onto your skin, because it's so emollient, as I believe the formula, it has oils in it to help the powder slide and blend into the skin easier. But woo, look at that shine. If you like, you could go in with another final buff to bring borders together between highlighter and blush shades. In terms of consistency, I believe the final blend is something you experience from the blush singles, and a benefit I think we all favor, because the blush texture is very soft, and when blending it on the skin, it almost just sinks and provides this veil of color, leaving a beautiful sheen behind while appearing skin-like in finish and very natural. And you can layer the colors successfully, create beautiful gradients without the powders appearing too dry or muddy on the skin. And I think if you select the right brush with these powder textures, you'll be successful with how, again, you apply the blushes, how you layer them together. I am digging the Nude Venus and Divine Rose 3 side. Divine Rose 3, I think, is a new favorite. And of course, Sunset Nectar, beautiful highlight. I mean, the softness and just smooth texture of the powder highlighters from Pat McGrath is outrageous. And for foundation today, I did apply the Hourglass Ambient Soft Glow. This is in shade 11. I didn't set the cheek area. I just lightly set under my eyes, and I think that's a testament to how smooth these powders are, in that you don't need to set your foundation unless you are particularly oily or you are using a dewy foundation. But the texture of the powder works well with several types of foundation dry downs, especially if you use the right brush to blend these in. Now into Divine Rose. Let's start off with Desert Orchid 2. Taking my same soft cheek and starting on the cheeks rather than the hollows. And this definitely has a little more color to it than the original Divine Rose. Desert Orchid. Still has that sheen finish. So it has the pearlized finish, gives me a little glow on the center of the face. We like that. The original Divine Rose shade, topping that on the same area here, but it doesn't have that same pearlized finish as Desert Orchid does. It has the demi-matte finish, not completely matte, but not overly dry either. And that takes on more of a plummy hue to the skin. Then the new shade, Peony Rose, I'll hit that higher. Let's do it on this side. So nudging that into the hollows, and you can see that presents a more vibrant serving of pink compared to Divine Rose 3. And I would say also, what fell? Oh God. Divine Rose 1, but that's a nice gradient there, yeah? So a little bit cooler from Divine Rose, but Peony Rose has a heartier, vibrant rose tint to it that I think really nice on the hollows. Yeah, that lifts the face. If you don't want to apply Divine Rose on the lower part, you can keep Peony Rose higher there. That's pretty. And our beloved Electric Bloom on the Desert Orchid side, and I'll take that onto the hollows of this side, and that's going to serve a much vibrant red, kind of like, that's like summer heat to me, yeah? Gorgeous with Desert Orchid. I mean, I think we discovered that upon applying the Desert Blush shades when they came out as singles. Electric Bloom is just outrageously gorgeous, and because of the texture, can be dialed easily depending on your skin tone. If you're light and you're like, woo, that red, you just gotta apply a tiny amount. If you're deeper complected, you apply a little bit more. So the versatility in this shade because of the formula, I think, is phenomenal. Nude Nectar. Now, because of what we experienced with Sunset Nectar, I will pick up a smaller brush. I said blush. Can't get it together. Mini cheek. All right, so let's tap into Nude Nectar, and I'll tap that carefully here on the high parts of the cheekbone. And just as I suspected, despite the different name and even slight difference in undertone, would you really detect that this is Nude Nectar and not Sunset Nectar? I don't think you would. Absolutely not. Maybe if it's on different skin tones, perhaps you can identify the undertone more successfully, but I can't. Not on me. So either or will be great. Whether you get the Nude Venus palette or Divine Rose palette, it's hard for me to decide which palette I prefer. I gotta say though, really like Peony Rose and Divine Rose together. I think these are lovely shades to wear, and what's pulling me back from announcing Divine Rose as my favorite over Nude Venus is because Nude Venus has Paradise Venus, and Paradise Venus is my favorite shade out of the entire Divine Blush collection. That's the only reason why. But I do like the arrangement that exists in Divine Rose. I think it interesting to include Electric Bloom amongst Desert Orchid and the Divine Rose shades, you know what I mean? But Divine Rose has the new Desert Orchid shade, which I kind of dig. It's giving me a little more of like that tan pink feel of things compared to the original I was gonna say Divine again. I was gonna say Divine Orchid. I might just bring this palette with me to the wedding. I think this is gonna be the one. I know I'm not bringing Paradise Venus with me. Who am I? I think I gotta give this one a chance. This is in heavy contention to be the favorite. What can I say? Take a look at the texture. Apologies for not doing this with Nude Venus, but again, this is just lovely in terms of how the powders look like this on skin. I don't know how it's done. Round 3, going into Nude Venus II and Venusian Nude. Nude Venus II, taking a ton because I feel like this shade is one of those on me, yes, that's going to be that quick, give me a blush color that will translate as Alicia is alive and doing well on her cheeks, that is. As suspected, I think this is just, again, fantastic color for my complexion to whip on quickly without worrying so much about placement, brush type. You know, I kind of have to put a little bit of strategy when applying Paradise Venus, but I think this is a fantastic color just to place all over. I mean, I've been doing this a lot also, just pulling it in this arced way under the eyes. I kept this side open just in case you wanted to see the original Nude Venus. Yeah, so if only I could find it now amongst all the compacts. All right, original Nude Venus. Let's wipe the brush, taking that in the same fashion. I feel the original Nude Venus has a little more of like that peachy tone to it, which I absolutely love. And the Nude Venus II, it's like a little more mauve-y, don't you think? Is it plummy mauve? It's not that same peach that I'm getting from the original Nude Venus. Gotta say, I prefer on me the original Nude Venus. Maybe that I'm just being a prisoner of the moment, but yeah. Especially because the original Nude Venus is the demi matte and the Nude Venus II has the pearl finish, and I like the demi matte in the peach shade on me better. Don't regret Nude Venus. I think it's a lovely color. I mean, heck, I could apply a little bit on top of the original Nude Venus to maybe give it a little more voluminous finish, especially because it's the pearl formula. But yeah, Nude Venus, the original color, is top notch. It is time to finally apply Venusian Nude. And because this is gel to powder, I think my mini cheek will still be a suitable, don't close on me, suitable choice for me to pick up the right amount. And oh my goodness, this is going to give, as suspected, a little more twinkle than the pressed powder, right? Because this is gel to powder, it has like that crystal, crushed crystal look to it, which you don't need a ton of. You just gotta lightly tap, and I think a little more strategic in terms of where you place it. Maybe perhaps using a smaller brush, you know, so that it doesn't get away from you when you apply it. But that's lovely. I think that's really pretty. Color-wise, I don't think you can make the distinction between Sunset Nectar and Nude Nectar. I do think you can recognize the difference in finish in regards to how the light hits. I applied a little too much on this side, actually. Let me buff that down. So taking it along for a ride, so I could just... Yes, much better, much better. So that's going to have, again, a more twinkle effect on the skin than the pressed powder, the powders found in the Divine Blush and Glow palettes. It really all depends on what you prefer in terms of the finish, how you like your highlighter to appear. Do you want that little bit of dazzle? You want it to be more subdued? You want it to look glass skin and finish? You want it to look wet, okay? Those will determine which one you picked up, if any. Perhaps you're fine with last year's highlighter. Last year's highlighter, I think, is fantastic. I'll apply a little bit on top, but, you know, would you be able to tell the difference? Would you be able to tell the difference if I wore Lunar Nude on one side and Venusian Nude on the other? I wouldn't. It'll be awfully difficult simply because they're just so similar in shade. And I much prefer last year's design over this year's design. I mean, I still have the sticker on. Do I? Yes, I sure do. I don't want to use my nail. Hold on. I much prefer the all gold compact over this design overlay. Yeah, and both these shades have that same crystal-like finish on the skin, right? I mean, you're not going to tell. If you like this year's embossing over last year's, maybe that's a thing. They're both pretty, you know, but again, if you are trying to decide based on the color itself and you have last year's, you don't necessarily need Venusian Nude. I don't think. In terms of who these palettes are great for, if you don't have any of the Divine Blush singles, fantastic that you have 4 shades and a highlighter. That's a great deal. Absolutely. If you already do, I can understand the argument of wanting all shades in one place, right? Maybe you're like myself who likes to mix and match blush a lot. Would you take one palette versus 4 or 5 separate compacts? That will make it more space efficient, but because of that, you will have repeat shades in your collection. However, each palette only has 2 repeat shades, right? So it's not like you're getting all the repeats, especially if you don't have all the Divine Blush singles. Well, hold on. I made a mistake. You only get the new Divine Rose 3 in Nude Venus, whereas you get Peony Rose and Desert Orchid 2 from Divine Rose. So based off that, probably just pick up Divine Rose over Nude Venus, especially if you already have Paradise Venus. Okay, that will be my recommendation for Nude Venus 2. Again, if you want the compact, although I don't think yes, it's a different compact design, and yes, it's a different embossing. Maybe great for a gift, perhaps for yourself if you don't have any of the Divine Blushes. But if you have the original Nude Venus, I personally prefer that shade over Nude Venus 2. I just like how it looks on me better. you know, I could go on and on and on, but I'm just coming at you from a practical point of view, especially with all the cheek products that have released. I actually forgot that I ordered these, and I'm so happy I didn't buy anything from Charlotte Tilbury yet, because that would just be overdoing it. I have both Divine Rose and Nude Venus. I got all the blush singles from the original release 2 years ago. I have a bunch of like trio palettes from Bridgerton and like whatever released last year from Holidays collection. Again, I would recommend you consider the Divine Blush and Glow palette if you wanted the new shades. Divine Rose has the 2 new shades, Nude Venus only 1 shade. If you're trying to decide between Nude Nectar and Sunset Nectar, and yes, I could briefly swatch the Golden Nectar and Golden Moonlight, which again, I'm only assuming if I were to apply these shades on my face, would you be able to tell? Now, you could tell slightly from the swatches, but because of how the light hits, it's going to brighten the effect and will make it tougher for you to make a distinction between these 3. This is Golden Moonlight, this is Golden Nectar, this is the Nude Nectar, and I can quickly swatch Sunset Nectar. Are you really going to tell? You will tell the difference if it's like the more bronzier highlighter shades, obviously, but between like the pink, champagne, golden undertones, between all these highlights, when they're on the face, it's hard to tell. So that is it, fam. Hopefully this helped. I know that Pat McGrath released lipsticks for Celestial Nirvana. I'm just, you know, I ordered enough. I actually have the Liquid Lust shades on Spellbound and Divine Nude. And I believe today she released new Liquid Lust formulas with like that, not glitter. I think it has pearl in it, so it looks a little more brushed metallic. Really pretty. I didn't order those because I haven't used the Liquid Lust in a while, and I forgot how lovely these shades are and how pretty great the formula is for it being a liquid matte lipstick and it not feeling terrible on the dry down. Also considering to bring to the wedding. Those are my thoughts, first impression versions of them. I'll keep using these products. Perhaps I'll arrive to a more elaborate conclusion, but I think I feel pretty good about my recommendations in this video. Just again to briefly cover, Divine Rose has the 2 shades, Nude Venus just 1. I prefer the compact from last year's Skin Fetish highlighter over this one, and I prefer Nude Venus over Nude Venus 2 from this year's collection. Let me know if you have any of these products, if you skipped on them, surprises you encounter, differences in the shade. Did you also make comparisons between the shades that exist in the palettes versus the ones in the Divine Blush singles? I will see you down in those comments, fam. And until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial, blush extravaganza, or monthly faves. Take care, and I will see you again soon.